Hello, guys. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Raheel, and I'm the children's pastor at St. Peter's Church. And it's so lovely that you could join us today for the Rock Solid online session. Now, it is it's past mid of August, and we are slowly heading towards September, where we'll be back in church. How exciting that is! But we have 2 more weeks to go with that. So this Sunday and the next Sunday as well. But hey ho, let's just begin and see what God has for us to think upon and to learn together. Now, as you know, if you've been following the series, the last few weeks we've been learning about God's nature. What is God like? And today's episode, today's story, today's teaching is about one of God's very important and big feature, his characteristic, his attribute. Big words, isn't it? What is he like? Okay, so this week we are going to learn about God being the forgiving one. Can you see? Forgiving. Okay, now you might have heard the word forgiveness or forgive. What do you think forgiveness means? If you have someone next to you, just maybe tell them, share your thoughts. Well done if you have expressed or shared what you think forgiveness is. I think I can share an example with you. Something very recent happened. Just yesterday, I went to do some shopping and I was in a bit of a rush. And I just somehow managed to jump a bit ahead of the queue. I didn't realize that someone behind me was waiting before me. And here I go with my shopping and go into the queue, and then someone just tapped on my shoulder and said, sorry, I was just in the queue before you. And I was like, oh, I am so sorry, I just didn't realize that, and I did something wrong, and I said, sorry, I'm so sorry, can I please be in here, I'm in a bit of a rush. And they said, yeah, that's fine, not a problem at all. And it was all happy, and great. And I got into the queue and I just rushed off. So that was great. I did something silly, and that person actually confronted me. They actually pointed my mistake out, and I apologized, and I said, oh, I'm so sorry. Can I? And then I asked, can I just be here? So they did. So that worked out. So in a way, it was a very small example, but that person actually forgave me for doing something wrong that was coming in ahead of them, in front of them, to join the queue. So that is an example, a small example of forgiveness. Take. I am sure that many a times you would have said, oh, I am sorry, mummy, I am sorry, daddy, or grandma, or granddad, or auntie, or anyone else in your family, and even friends. Because we do mess up, right? We do have some boo-boo moments sometimes, and we make mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes because we learn from them. But the best thing is that when we make a mistake, we can ask sorry, we can say sorry, we can ask for forgiveness. Today's story is about someone who was forgiven but did not forgive. So watch the story very carefully. It's by LifeKids, and the story is called The Unforgiving Servant. Let's watch the story and come back to discuss more.
I was playing basketball with my friend, and he said something that made me really mad.
It's not easy to forgive when we feel like that, is it?
Who said anything about forgiving? Besides, I've forgiven him before. Do I have to forgive him again?
In the Bible, Peter asked Jesus a question just like that. Peter asked if he should forgive someone 7 times.
7 times? That's a lot. What did Jesus say?
Jesus said we should forgive someone 70 times 7 times.
Let's see, 0 times 7 is 0, and then 7 times 7 is... Wait, I'm supposed to forgive him 490 times? How am I supposed to keep track of all that?
That was Jesus' point. We aren't supposed to keep track. We're just supposed to forgive, every time. Jesus told a story so Peter could understand. A king had a servant who borrowed millions of dollars from him.
That's a lot of money. You could buy a lot of basketballs with that.
Right, and there was no way the servant could ever pay the king back. The king ordered that the servant and his whole family be sold. That meant they would all be slaves, even the kids. The servant begged the king for more time to pay the debt.
So did the king give him more time?
No, the king did something even better. He forgave the servant's debt. He erased it, like it had never even existed.
Whew! The servant must have been happy.
He was. Then the servant left the king and went to another servant who owed him money. Not millions like he had owed the king, not even $500,000. The guy owed the servant a few $1,000s. The servant demanded instant payment. The man begged and pleaded, but the unforgiving servant wouldn't listen. He had the man arrested and put in prison until his debt was paid.
That's awful.
The king thought it was awful too. In fact, when the king found out what happened, he ordered the unforgiving servant to come back.
Uh-oh.
The king asked the servant why he had been so unforgiving when the king had forgiven his huge debt. Then he put the servant in prison until the debt could be paid. Jesus said that when we don't forgive others with our whole heart, we are just like that unforgiving servant.
Ah, I get it now. Since God forgives me all the time for small things and big things, I should do the same and forgive others.
Well said, my friend. Well said.
Did you like that story? The beautiful animation. I loved it. But in the story, it teaches us so much. We had the king, and who else did we have? We had the servant. Now, the king forgave the servant all his debt and the money that he owed, which was quite a lot, wasn't it? And how would you think the servant would have felt that time when he knew he couldn't pay that money back to the king? And imagine how would he felt? How would have you felt if you did something wrong, if you broke something of something expensive and you had to repay that back? But that person says, "It's okay, I forgive you, you don't need to pay me back anymore, it's okay." Won't you feel relieved? Won't you feel happy? That a big weight is off your shoulders. That's what the servant felt. But what did he do afterwards? When someone else owed him money, what did he do? Did he do the same thing as the king did to him? Did he forgive him? No, he said, "I want my money back. How dare you do that?" And he put him in prison, right? Wow, how rude and how bad of him to do that. Now, I have an interesting feed here. I think that sometimes God represents that king. God is the king, and he is always merciful, he's forgiving, and God forgives us when we deserve to pay something back or when we do wrong things. God forgives us, and then he expects us to do the same thing to other people. Now, if we do wrong things, we do wrong things because we're human beings, and sometimes when we say sorry to God, we ask him for forgiveness, God forgives us, right? Can I see some hands together? Go left and right. God forgives us. And God also says that we should forgive each other as well. When someone hurts us or someone does something wrong to us and they say sorry, we should forgive them as well. And in the story, a very big number, Peter asks Jesus, "Lord, how many times can I forgive someone? Is 7 times enough?" 7 times is a big time, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whew, that took me a bit of time to count. So 7 times, forgiving someone 7 times, it's a big amount, I think. But Jesus told Peter, Peter, not 7 times, but forgive people 70 times 7. Can you remember what the amount was? 70 times 7 is, I think, there, 490, so 490 times. Well, that doesn't mean you can't forgive them more than that, but Jesus said so many times, it's okay, just keep forgiving. Just as God forgives us so many times. That's the story. That's the nature of God, that God is always forgiving. But He doesn't just forgive just like that. We need to ask forgiveness, isn't it? So when you go to bed tonight, when you pray, do ask God for forgiveness. Tell God sorry. Talk to Him and tell Him, Lord, I'm so sorry I did this wrong. I hurt someone, or I did something I wasn't supposed to. And just let it out to God and to Jesus. And if you're honest, if you are truthful, and if you're really sincere, God will forgive you. But the best part of that is, the best struggle of that is that you need to make sure you don't repeat that, okay? Because it doesn't make sense if you ask for forgiveness and then do the wrong thing and then ask sorry, say sorry. No, you've got to be sincere, you've got to be honest and do our best to not repeat it. Now, with that, let us pray together. And we go together like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. Dear God, we thank you for today's story. We thank you that you always forgive us when we ask for forgiveness seriously. Lord, be with us and help us to not only receive forgiveness from you, but also to forgive each other. Forgive those who hurt us or who do wrong to us. Lord, be with us and help us to walk in your steps. And thank you. Thank you for always being kind and forgiving to us. Help us today, tomorrow, and for the rest of the week. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. And we go together like, Amen. Amen. Good one, guys. A good one. Now that you know a little bit more about forgiving, and also to help you, you can always remember the story of the unforgiving servant to help you understand and decide, what do you want to be? Do you want to be like the unforgiving servant, or do you want to have a little bit of God's nature in you, that He is always forgiving? So on that note, when you go off today or in this week, and if you remember a time where you have done wrong to someone and you need to say sorry to them, you need to ask for forgiveness, don't be afraid to do that. Call them, write them a card, or when you see them, just say sorry for something wrong that you have done. And encourage yourself that from now onwards, if you hurt someone and you feel bad about it, be perfectly brave and okay to go and say sorry and ask for forgiveness. And also, when someone comes to you to ask for forgiveness, pray about it and forgive them as well. Because remember, not just 7 times, it's 490. Well done, and more on that. So have a great week, guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any comments or feedback, do email that to me at rohil@sbb.church, and I'd be lovely to hear from you. On that note, stay safe and warm, and I shall see you next week. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.